Welcome to the Coast Range ecoregion. In this ecoregion, it has a distinct climate, a distinct set of animals that live here, and a distinct set of plants that grow here. That's what makes an ecoregion. It has its unique animals, unique plants, and unique climate that all make it different from the other ecoregions in Oregon. We're today going to explore some of this ecoregion. So I'm going to show you a temperate rainforest, which gets more than 140 inches of rain a year. That's probably taller than me amount of water landing here at this spot each year. We're also going to learn about some of the plants and maybe some of the animals besides this animal. No, I'm just joking. But what we're going to do is we're going to look around and see what this rainforest looks like, teach you some of the plants, maybe see an animal, and then we'll also look today at the coastal beaches. Let's talk about the climate here in the Coastal Range ecoregion. This region gets, in some places, more than 140 inches of rain a year. That is a lot of rain. That's more rain than I am tall falling if you measure it all up. If you had a bucket and it filled it up, the bucket would have to be as deep or deeper than me to fit all that water in there. As you can see over here, you can see the clouds moving in. It's almost as if we are in a cloud. That's why I'm wearing a rain jacket, because we're inside of a rain cloud practically. So the water will come, it'll heat up on the ocean, transpire up out of the ocean, evaporate, and then blow on towards the coast, where it hits the Coast Range mountains, and for every foot or so of elevation it goes up, more water is going to drop out of the sky, because water is heavier than air, so air does not want to lift up the water. So for evaporation, the water comes from the ocean, hits the Coast Range mountains, and then it has to drop water. As the water drops out of the clouds get lighter and they lift on up, and then they blow towards us in the Willamette Valley, where they dump water on us for a lot of the year. There are areas in the earth near large mountains that are very dry and desert-like. These dry areas are called rain shadows. What causes a rain shadow? When wind flows up a mountain, the air is moving into an area that has lower air pressure, making the rising air expand and go up. Air cools and its capacity to hold moisture drops. Water vapor is a gaseous form of water. As air continues to rise up the mountain, it cools to the point that it's at its maximum capacity to hold as water vapor. When the air is at its maximum capacity, it's called 100% relativity humidity. The cooling will cause extra water vapor to fall out of the sky. It'll form clouds. When condensation occurs, rain or snow will fall. As the air continues to rise up the mountain, clouds and rain or snow will occur. The side of the mountain where wind is blowing up is called the windward side. These areas experience large amounts of rain or snow, like the Coastal Range. There are parts of Oregon and Washington states where this happens a ton. As air flows down the other side, it starts to warm. The warming is caused by the air getting squeezed together into higher pressure air. Warmer air can hold less water. Condensation does not occur when the air is sinking. There is no condensation, there is no clouds. Therefore, there is no rainfall or less rainfall. On the lee side is a rain shadow area. Eastern parts of Oregon and Washington have very little rain. Laurel Mountain in western Oregon receives over 119 inches of rain yearly precipitation. Bend, Oregon on the leeward side receives only about 12 inches. Large differences in climate will be experienced depending on which side of the mountain you're on. It's a very wet climate here, over 140 inches of rain. It's almost always raining here. You might get 1 or 2 months out of the year where it doesn't rain, you have nice sunny days, but this is a rainy place. Looking around here, you can see that it's a mix of deciduous and coniferous trees. Trees that lose their leaves in the winter, and trees that keep their green all year round. Let's look over here at this side of the stream, and you can see the leaves changing color. You can see over here that some of the leaves have already fallen off, and you can see much of the forest is still green. That's what you have in the coastal range mountains. You have a mix of evergreen and a mix of coniferous trees. Well, those are the same. And a mix of deciduous trees. So deciduous trees that lose their leaves and coniferous trees that keep their green all year round. So this region needs lots of water to survive, and it's getting lots of water right now. Looks like it's gonna be a wet day. Come on with me, we're gonna explore the coastal range ecoregion. We're gonna go through the temperate rainforest, look at some unique plants, maybe some animals. So far, all the animals have escaped our video person, and we're gonna go. So come and join me, let's go. This sign right here shows you that you're entering the wilderness area. What is a wilderness area? A wilderness area is an area of land set aside by the U.S. government to protect it for future generations of people. So for future generations over and over and over again, forever into the future, this land is never going to be built into houses. This land will always be forest. It can never be logged. You can't use chainsaws. You can't use any machinery in here. You can only go in here by foot. And this land is protected for all people to use into the future. This is a wilderness area, and this one is the Drift Creek Wilderness Area. Creeks like this are what the water should look like. This is a really good sign. Every year and every day, you're hearing about, oh no, things are going terrible in the world. But when you look at this creek, some things are going well. This creek is how a creek should look. You don't see lots of muddy water. You don't see lots of pollutants. And even this foam in the water is actually supposed to be here. It's because when the fungi and things fall in the water and different pieces of dirt, it creates a foaming thing. You'd think it would be an environmental disaster, but in this creek, it's a good thing. So this creek has really clear water quality, and that's just what the salmon want. Too much water in the water, no, not too much water. And if you look over there, there's a golden eagle, which we just missed. So, the water quality is really good, not because there's too much water in the water, but because there's not dirt in the water, which covers up the salmon eggs. So this is exactly what a salmon wants for spawning and laying its eggs. This is a happy creek. In Drift Creek, you can also see the signal crawfish, which is native to the Oregon Coast Range. It also lives in other parts of Oregon, and this is a wonderful thing to see. However, there are many crayfish that are not native to Oregon and will kill these ones and make them go extinct. So it's very important to never move crayfish or crawdads from any piece of water to any other piece of water. The vine maple is about how tall they get. They get maybe a little bit taller, but the other type of maple trees grow taller. The vine maple is more of like a shrubby type of tree, and it grows pretty short. So this is probably about a 5-10-year-old vine maple, maybe even 15 years. And this is about how high they grow. They may grow a little bit higher, but this is generally how high they get. You can tell a vine maple leaf by counting the 9 points on the leaf. V-I-N-E, 1, 2, 3, 4. M-A-P-L-E, that's 9. Vine maple. V-I-N-E-M-A-P-L-E. You don't need a space. So that's how you can tell a vine maple. They can grow about 20-30 feet tall, and they're very common throughout the western parts of Oregon. They're one of Oregon's native maples. There are only 2 main native maples in Oregon, and the other is the big leaf maple. This is the vine maple. They're very common in the Coast Range, and this one's about to lose its leaves for the winter season. What is Mr. Gordon? Bananas, that's what I am. And what is this thing right here? A banana slug. Banana slug. Don't eat them. You could die from eating one of these actually, so don't eat them. This is a banana slug, and this is a small baby one, a little one. And it's slugging along right here, eating up nasty dead stuff. Hi there, little banana slug. I'm not going to touch you because you might cause a rash on my hand. Hi there. Don't eat these things. You might die. Hi there, banana slug. I'm right here in front of the western hemlock, one of the oldest trees in this forest. And this tree is probably close to 200 feet tall. Let's look at this giant tree. Look how small I am compared to this tree. Look at me and look at this tree. This tree is certainly older than the United States of America. This tree is older than the country it lives in. This tree is the type of trees that you would have seen 200 or 300 years ago in this amazing forest. This is what the forest used to look like when the Native Americans lived here, and also what Lewis and Clark would have seen when they traveled here. Please look around and see what this forest looks like. What an amazing place. There are two trees in Oregon that are hard to tell apart. The Douglas fir tree and the western hemlock. I want to show you quickly right here how you can tell them apart. The western hemlock here has a flat leaf. When you look at the Douglas hemlock, or Douglas fir, it has a bottle brush shape. So kind of a circular shape, pokiness on all the directions around. So this is the Douglas fir, and this is the western hemlock. This is the difference between these two. Let's also look at the pine cones. There's going to be a major difference in the pine cones. So we're going to look at the pine cones. Let's see if we can find one. These are two different cones. One, this is the Douglas fir. Two, this is the western hemlock. And there are two stories that you can remember to tell them apart. The Douglas fir cone looks like it has little feet in it and little tails. If you know why, then you might have had my class before. But let's do the quick and short on this story. So there once was a mouse named Douglas, and he was playing out in the woods one day. And Douglas wasn't listening to his mom, who was yelling, "Douglas! Douglas! Come back home!" For his mom saw smoke in the distance. There was a fire in the woods. So Douglas was like just going around, and all the other mice moms were like, "Come home, children! Come home, children! There's a fire!" And Douglas didn't listen, but he eventually heard the calls and he ran back home, but he wasn't quick enough. All the other mice ran up the tree earlier and they got all the good hiding spots. But Douglas was late. And there were a few other Douglases, and you can tell the Douglas fir cone because Douglas had to hide in a pine cone. And you can see in the cone his tail and feet sticking out. That's how you can tell the Douglas fir. So if you see it closely, the Douglas fir has the little feet and little things. Now for the story about the western hemlock. The western hemlock was a bossy tree. It was pushing around. It's one of the tallest trees in the forest. And it's like, "I'm the best tree. I'm the tallest tree. Leave me alone." So it cut in line when it was in line with the cone god to get cones. So it was shoving and pushing and shoving and pushing. And the cone god said, "Buddy, western hemlock, you just cut the line. Go to the end of the line." So the Douglas fir got this big, beautiful cone. And the western hemlock got this small, little, kind of sad little cone because it was a bossy tree. So if you want to know what a western hemlock cone looks like, you're going to have to look really closely because it's really small. Douglas fir, western hemlock. Two most common trees in western Oregon.
Rough-skinned newts were named for their dry, bumpy skin. Most other salamander species have moist, smooth skin. A terrestrial or land-living adult newt has a brown head and back with a bright orange belly and can grow to almost 8 inches in total length. Rough-skinned newts have a powerful neurological poison in their skin and eggs to protect them from predators. A milky white substance is released from glands when disturbed. Avoid hand-to-mouth contact after handling a rough-skinned newt. Through the non-breeding season, terrestrial adults live in forested areas along the coast and through the eastern foothills in the Cascades. They find protection in or under soft logs. For their size, these newts travel relatively long distances between their breeding and non-breeding habitat and may be seen crossing roads during spring and fall as they migrate.
Hey, welcome. What type of thing could this be? It reminds me of something violent that they used in the Middle Ages. What could it be? It could be a sword fern. This is a sword fern. You can tell a sword fern because each one of the little things, each one of the little blades is shape of a sword, and it's kind of jagged on the edges. So this is the sword fern. It's one of the most common ferns that grows in the Cascades and Western Oregon. This is a sword fern. If you look at the other side of it, each one of these leaves has a bunch of little pods here. This is how it reproduces, and these things help spread the pollen things for the fern. So this is a sword fern, and we're looking at the back side of it. This one they've already released, and then on the other side it looks like this. This is the sword fern. Ah, what's that wonderful smell? What could it be? It's a tree. And what type of tree is this? If you rub these needles, it has a distinct smell. You can't smell it though because you're on the video. Okay, this tree grows very tall but likes lots of water in open clearings. This tree was called the Tree of Life by the Native Americans. It is the cedar. This is the Western red cedar, and it is a tree that grows throughout most of Western Oregon. Now let's take a look at this tree and go look at the bark. This is the Western red cedar. You can tell this tree because of its unique bark. The bark comes in long fibrous strips, and the Native Americans called this the Tree of Life because they could make everything from diapers to coffins out of this tree. So from cradle to coffin, this tree provided everything all the way through your life. They would even use this tree for making canoes. This tree, Native Americans would cut slices into it like this with a hatchet, and then they would pull the strips off like this. I'm not going to pull a big strip off because I don't want to kill the tree, but Native Americans would pull strips off, beat it into fibrous things, and they could weave it into stuff, kind of like a really strong thread. It'd be so soft after they processed it that they could even make diapers out of it. They'd make dresses out of it, hat things out of it, clothes out of it, and it's water repellent, has a wonderful smell, and is disease and pest resistant. So it won't rot. This is a very good wood, and has a wonderful smell, which you can't smell right now, unfortunately, because you are on the video. So this is the Tree of Life, and the Tree of Life has this fibery bark, and it's called the cedar. There are a few different types of cedar that grow in Oregon, but the most common one is the Western red cedar, which is this tree right here. This is a Western red cedar needle cluster. These are not pine needles. This is not a pine tree, but this tree has leafy matter that looks like this. They aren't leaves, but they're needles. Trees that have cones and needles are called coniferous trees. Coniferous tree, coniferous. So this is a coniferous tree. It is the Western red cedar, and this is what they look like. I did not rip this off because it is really high up. If you pan up there and look at the tree, you'll see the tree is really high up. These fell down in a recent windstorm, and if you look down here, they're all over the place. So this is just one branch that fell down. And this is what the Western red cedar looks like. Do you know what plastic is? Then you'll be able to remember what fern this is. Oregon has many unique ferns, but this fern is easy to keep track of because of its plasticky stems. It's almost like a fake plant. Let's take a look at it right now. This is not a fern. This is a little tree. This here is a fern. This is called the maidenhair fern. And the maidenhair fern has a plasticky stem. You're not going to be able to see that in this video, unfortunately. You can't feel the video. But if you were feeling this plant, it has a plasticky stem. It feels almost like a fake plant, and it has these type of pattern of leaves. Okay? This is what they call a maidenhair fern.